Hey, everybody, welcome to the Jim Masters Show live entertainment, lifestyle, variety talk show series. How's everybody doing today? Hope you guys are doing well. And thanks for joining us from all around the world. We have viewers that watch from all across the United States and Canada, Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, New Zealand. We're still waiting for a couple to come in from the Arctic Circle and perhaps Antarctica. So if you have some cousins in any of those locations, ring them up and say, we're on live right now. And we're joining all of you. Thanks for all the comments on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Jim Masters TV. All that watch and love and support our YouTube channel, which has some 750 episodes of our daily live series where we bring in guests, as you guys know, from Broadway and Hollywood, television, film, music, stage, culinary arts, sports, comedy, and everything in between. Lots of inspiration too, light, love, levity, and our famous levity too, which was a word that just slipped out of my mouth 2 years ago, and we are running with it. And we welcome the Levity Squad. Gang, if you would like to comment during the show live right now, you can in our JMS Levity chat room. And that is available for those who subscribe to our YouTube channel, which costs nothing. I don't know why they use the word subscribe, because there's no cost. You just click that red subscribe button, and guess what happens? You're part of the JMS Levity family. We appreciate that. So if you want to comment and say hello to amongst yourselves, which you guys love to do, feel free to do that. That would be fantastic. And at the same time, you can say hello to us because we can see some of your comments as you're posting them as well. And maybe we'll sprinkle some of them on the screen as well. Don't forget, you can do super chat, super emoji, super stickers, super thanks. That helps support all this content, all these daily shows, all these fabulous episodes with some of your favorite guests. And of course, just being here with you is always a pleasure. We love and appreciate our viewers, and we say hello to the JMS Levity family. It's always so nice to have you guys here. Now, I'm really excited because you guys know professionally I work in broadcast media, television and radio and stage and film, and so does our special guest. Now, you have heard his voice over the years, like 30 plus years he's been on the air, and he has voiced some of the most iconic game shows in television history and lots more. Matter of fact, right after this broadcast, he's got a pile of voiceover scripts that he has to voice in his studio in Burbank, California. Yeah, some of your favorite shows and so much more. His voice can be heard on continually, and he's worked with some of the icons in the industry. Bob Barker, Wink Martindale. You may remember Wink Martindale and his lovely wife, Sandra. They were guests on the Jim Masters Show. If you didn't see that episode, check that episode out. You can see that and all the other episodes in the archives on our channel. Randy West is joining us here. And yes, see, now if he still lived on the East Coast, where he's from originally, like me, the New York area, he would be named Randy East. But since he is in Burbank, he is Randy West, nationally recognized announcer, voiceover artist, author of a really cool book. Matter of fact, a couple of books too. He wrote a fabulous book celebrating the life of Johnny Olson, who you know is one of the original announcers. Match Game, The Price is Right, you name it. Tons of great shows. Marc Goodson, Bill Todman Productions. And of course, this other fabulous book that just came out recently, TV Inside and Out, which is really a revealing and eye-opening look at the television industry. Blemishes, feuds, fights, all of it. It's a tough business. It's not always as smooth as we make it all look. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears behind the scenes to make it all look so smooth. But that's what we do to entertain you in broadcast media. He started out in radio and more. I've done radio too, and this is going to be a good conversation. We're going to have some fun tonight. We have him for a brief amount of time, so we're going to dive right in. Again, I see a lot of comments built up. Keep the comments coming. It's so nice to have you here on the Jim Masters Show. Let me tell you a little bit about our illustrious guest coming in literally from his studio, which is really fantastic. He came to a career in television armed with the classic sensibilities and professionalism learned from his mentor, the first generation broadcaster, the one and only Johnny Olson. Randy was first behind radio microphones while still in his teens, advancing to television announcing in 1988 on Group W. And of course, that was Westinghouse Broadcasting. Good old WBZ Boston, WJZ Baltimore, KYW Philadelphia, and all the others. He voiced Our Magazine. Remember Our Magazine with Gary Collins? Absolutely. That was a Group W production. That was a great talk show. The long list of programs that followed paired Randy with the likes of Ryan Seacrest, Dick Clark, Wink Martindale, Chuck Woolery, Bob Eubanks. You guys know all these names. Howie Mandel, Roy Combs. You remember him? Roy Combs was, for a brief time, game show host. He did Family Feud as well. Marc Summers, of course, from Nickelodeon fame, and Jerry Springer, Ben Stein, and many other iconic television personalities. He's worked with them all. His resume includes an exhaustive list of game, talk, and awards shows, the voice of, including Supermarket Sweep, Deal or No Deal, Weakest Link, the Daytime Emmy Awards, and 10 annual live broadcasts of Nick's Kids' Choice Awards. His television voice work continues in 2022 on CBS's Big Brother. If you're watching Big Brother right now with Julie Chen and the gang, guess what? It's his voice. Big Brother on CBS. Randy cites his work with Bob Barker announcing CBS's The Price is Right during the 2003-2004 season as both a career pinnacle and an especially poignant honor, and it was his mentor's signature program. Randy continues his association with America's longest-running game show, The Price is Right, performing during the past 19 years in Fremantle Media's The Price is Right live stage show during, and I know Todd Newton has hosted that over the years too, another great host. During the successful residencies, he's been doing this at Bally's in Las Vegas, Harrah's in Atlantic City, the showrooms, and more. Presently, he also serves on the board of directors of the Pacific Pioneer Broadcasters and Hollywood Media Professionals. He's actively involved as a voting member of the Television Academy and periodically serves on committees at SAG-AFTRA. And most recently, Randy was honored by the request to aid in establishing the new National Archives of Game Show History at Strong National Museum of Play, the new gallery featuring interactive exhibits, while the archives serve as a research resource and repository for scripts, props, production materials, set designs, technical schematics, production Bibles, marketing materials, and other artifacts from 75 years of television game shows. Published author, Randy specializes in television history. The books, of course, the success of his Johnny Olson and Voice in Time have led opportunities coming his way to pen articles and features, as well as invitations to speak on television and radio at a number of colleges and universities. And he considers his brand new release, TV Inside and Out, to be a reader's backstage pass to the truest form of reality TV. Really cool stuff. That, gang, is just the short list. Just the short list. And again, he has been a part of some of your favorite shows, Weakest Link and The Newlywed Game. Of course, remember 21. That's another fantastic one. And Supermarket Sweeps. He was even on What's My Line and involved with Hitman. And remember Boggle and Shuffle with Wink Martindale. Also involved with Face the Music, another fantastic one. Here's another one too. What the Blank, Wink Martindale. Press Your Luck. These are all fantastic. And again, he's paid homage to Johnny Olson, who is somebody that he's really admired. And this book here is something that I encourage you to scoop up. And this one too, his most recent one, TV Inside Out, Flukes, Flakes, Feuds, and Felonies, the backstage blunders, bloopers, and blasphemy of celebrities in a search of success. That's a good one. That is a page turner, folks. So join me in welcoming from the West, Randy West, joining us in his studio live for an epic conversation coming up just for you right here and not portions recorded. We are coming to you live. Randy West in his studio in Burbank. Randy, welcome to the show.
I thank you so much, Jim. A pleasure to be with you. And my goodness, normally somebody has to die to hear a eulogy so flowing and flowery. I'm very impressed, and thank you for that great introduction.
Well, your mother faxed it to us in the morning, and she approved it. So we wanted to make sure we ran it through the family first.
Thank you. Thank you.
How are you, my friend?
I'm great. I'm fantastic. I really am. I'm thrilled to be COVID-free. I've not counted the months, so many far.
Yes.
Gotten away with this, but a lot of people, man, still getting sick. So
isn't it unbelievable?
If I had a PSA, it would be 5 seconds worth. Get vaccinated, get boosted. And that's the end of the paid advertising here.
Now, for those who are tuning in for the first time, don't know the broadcast lingo, PSA has nothing to do with the prostate. It's a public service announcement.
Thank you. Thank you for clearing that up.
Yes, yes, doctor. Thank you for clearing that up. You are a New York kid like I am. You came from the Bronx, and I came from out east on Long Island. Tell us about those early years growing up in New York. I mean, we're kind of spoiled being in the New York tri-state area because legendary television stations, legendary radio stations, anchors, hosts, so many people we've had exposure to growing up that we sort of admired and maybe were mentored by or aspired to be similar to. How about for you? Were you sort of inspired by some of the names and faces you saw on television, network, and local in New York?
Well, you're right. In New York, you're spoiled. It's the #1 market. The greatest talent ends up there. And my earliest experience with television is when I realized it was more than an appliance and something really special. It wasn't just a piece of furniture. I must have been, I don't know, 2 or 3 years old, and they were rerunning Mary Martin, which was one of the very early specials that NBC ran of her in Peter Pan. And she's flying across the stage. It was on kinescope. It was before videotape, but television reception was so poor we thought it was as good as live. And I'm flying, look at me in the air. Da, 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 da. And at 2 years old, the show ended. They rolled credits. She's flying. It's wonderful. I get up on a chair and I jump off, and I couldn't fly. I landed flat on my face. And that was like the first hint that what I saw through that looking glass, if you will, had greater meaning to me than I think most people. I don't believe everyone my age tried to fly because Peter Pan. But it was just a magical place. It was a happy place. Everybody on TV seemed to be happy, smiling, laughing, and having a good time. The soap operas didn't appeal to a child, so I never saw the high drama. It was just everybody singing and dancing. And when I realized that they were doing these shows in my backyard, 30 Rockefeller Plaza, a subway ride away. At 18, I started cutting classes and going down to NBC. And on any given day, you could see many shows. There were daytime game shows. There were like 6 hours a day. Okay. It was 9 in the morning and go to like 3 in the afternoon. That's 6 hours. It's 12 game shows, and if you go down there any day, they were like, come on in. Yeah, we're happy to have you. We got to tell the truth. We're going to do 2 episodes of that. And then if you want to stay with us, we've got 3 episodes of What's My Line, syndicated, whatever. And I would just hang around and watch these shows tape. And it was a magical world. Yeah. And this was the turning point for me. New Yorkers lining up, in the winter to see a television show out in the cold, because you do line up for a TV show for yeah. And by the time they got into a studio, New Yorkers with their coats and their umbrellas, hey, well, this better be funny, right? A lot of attitude. It's a tough crowd, you know what I mean?
It.
Tough crowd.
That in Jersey.
And people would be sitting there, like, all right, what are we going to see now? This better be good. And all of a sudden, this guy would come out of the wings going, oh, how's everybody today? But running up down the aisles, landing kisses on the cheeks of women, handing out dollar bills, running around like crazy. And it was so infectious. It was so magical. This guy was a bounty of energy. And within minutes, he could turn this crowd of, would you stop sitting on my umbrella for Christ's sake? He turned this crowd around instantly. And I was like mesmerized by that. Yeah. A guy just runs out in front of 300 strangers, and he's got them all laughing and carrying on. This was Johnny Olson, who had been a host in radio, even before television. He was an
Yeah.
early host in the early days of television, and
Yes.
Johnny didn't quite have the look of a leading man, especially as he got older. And this was the greatest takeaway of all when he said, you know, Randy, they didn't want me to host anymore, but they were happy to give the announcer role to me. And, you know, Randy, someone else might have said, I'm a host. I'm not the announcer. I'm the host. You know, he took lemons and made lemonade because he
Yes.
was the most respected, highest regarded announcer. And you
Yeah.
know him from "Let's all play What's My Line," or you know, "Come
Yes.
on down." You know, all
Yeah.
those great Goodson Todd
Match
shows.
game 74.
Get ready to match the stars. So
Yeah.
I would go down and watch him do that, mesmerized by that warm up. It was phenomenal. I couldn't believe that one guy could just come out there and turn a whole room around. And, you know, I wanted to watch him do that. And when you go to an audience, normally people will sit in the middle of the audience section. They want to be center stage. And I, however, knew that the announcer would be either far left or far right because that's where the microphone stand was. The announcer was off to the side. So I could, even if I wasn't first in line, I could always get the front row where Johnny Olson's microphone stand was because nobody wants to sit on the extreme edge. So I could sit there and just watch him. I mean, I'm sure I was panting or drooling or whatever because his ability to turn the printed word, you know, advertising copy into something magical. Lee press-on nails, beautify active hands instantly with Lee press-on nails. You know, he just had a sing-song, happy, infectious sound to his voice. And I would sit there and just watch him. And he would give me his old copy, go home and practice this. I said I wanted to do what he does for a living. Well, go home and, you know, listen, they've tried this out. One day he blew me away. I had to be 14 years old. And he says, who here wants to get me a cup of water? And a few hands went up. I raised my hand, sure. And I'm sure, you know, I don't think he even looked at anyone else. Hey, come down here. And he brought me down onto stage. And it's like, geez, you know, come down the steps to the stage level and walk up to him. And he says, now, here's the cup. I want you to get the water for me. You go out those doors way over there and make a right. Then go up a flight of stairs, make a hard left, and then you'll see the water fountain. But don't get me that water. That water is no good. I want you to get back on the elevator and go. And he would give this convoluted, you know, go down 3 doors, make a left, make a hard right, then see the lady, and she'll point out to you where you need. And it just went on and on like that. And I would stand there not knowing really what to do or what was going to happen here. And I would just go,
Yeah.
okay, like I'm trying to get it all. And then he said, well, go ahead and get me the water. And I walked across the stage and stood in the wings because obviously there was no way to follow those directions. So I just stood there like, well, what do I do now? And he finally said, where's that kid with the water?
Right.
Now I'm in show business for 12 seconds at this point, but I know a cue when I hear one, you know,
Mhm.
where's that kid with the water?
Yeah,
Well,
that's
I
it.
obviously have to do something now. So I start across the stage with an empty cup. I didn't get him any water because that was obviously not real, you know. And as I'm walking, he says, don't trip over the cable. Like, don't trip over the cable. And I made like I didn't fall, you know, but if I go, oh, I stumbled.
Little Dick Van Dyke action.
Yeah. And I brought him an empty cup and he held it upside down and he said, you just spilled all of my water. Go back to your seat. And I, you know, the hangdog look, whatever the expression is. I kind of shuffled my feet and went back to the seat and the audience was laughing. And that, it sounds silly, but
Yeah.
Billy Crystal in Mr. Saturday Night talks about
Yes.
the hug you can only get from a group of strangers, performers can get. Here's 300 people I don't know, and that even makes it sweeter when they laugh and embrace what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it was a moment that changed my life because it was like, wow, there's an acceptance, there's an appreciation, there's a whatever. Well, long story short, too late for that. But I would go down periodically and he would be in the warm up and it always changed. The man is doing improv with me and I'm, you know, I have no idea what I'm doing. You know, the directions would change, the cue would change. And it was up to me to try to follow along. And man, oh man, I mean, he was giving me a college education in improv.
Mm.
It was unbelievable. The bug bit me. I would go down to see him. He would give me the copy, go home and record this and bring me the tape. I don't know if he ever listened to anything, but he was encouraging. He had no kids of his own, and he really saw a passion, you know, a raw passion in me. And the story ends. He puts me on What's My Line, one of the shows he was announcing at the time. They had extra time to fill. Put this kid on, So I got the first of several appearances. I did 9 television game shows over the years just to be around it and a part of it. And in 1972, Marc Goodson and Bill Todman restaged The Price is Right in California. Now, Johnny had always been a New York act. He'd been out in LA in the 40s and did not have a success in the radio days. So he was not happy to come out again. His wife wanted no part of it, but he came out, took an apartment, and did The Price is Right because Marc Goodson said, "You're the only guy who can do this show." And if you think about it, the whole Price is Right. It's just one prize plug after another.
That's it.
So if you can win, it's this and this and this. And what are the prizes they'll be playing with? Well, this is the little items and the grocery things. It just went commercial, commercial, commercial. And he was able to, not sound like a commercial. So here's where it wraps. 1972, he comes out to California. I'm in New York. 1970s, I'm working in various radio stations. I get a job and an opportunity to come to Los Angeles. 1979, I haven't seen him in 7 years. I was a kid. Do I even look the same? I go down to CBS to try to reintroduce myself. And he goes, "Randy, how have you been?" And he remembered me, which just it was unbelievable. Now I'm in my 20s, and now he's arming me with information that's really valuable. Why he does what he does, how he does what he does, the intricacies of audience warm-up, the presentation for his announcing. I mean, all the tools of the trade. Never got me a job, but gave me a much greater gift, which was how and why you do what you do, how to turn a bunch of strangers into a family. And I'll give you a quick comparison of what I'm talking about. If you're in a movie theater with a bunch of strangers and something funny happens on the screen, you might go, or you might elbow the person next to you. Yeah, you see that? Whatever.
Yeah.
You and I are in our living room together. "Oh, wow, did you see that? That was incredible. Wow." Okay. It's an inhibition among strangers. And the whole idea to get an audience to applaud and laugh and react the way you want the show to have that impact for the home viewer. The home viewer doesn't know if it's funny or not, unless the audience in the studio is going wild. And the way to get that is to break down inhibitions among strangers. And that was the magic of what he did. And he could take a bunch of strangers and like a rodeo, just rope them and tie them and brand them and make them into a cohesive group. And that was the greatest gift I could ever have learned.
So you really were paying attention not only to his voice and the sound of the voice and the vocal aspect, but also as much the entertainer and that connection with people in the audience. That was attracting you as much as the dulcet tones, huh?
Yeah, well, I learned once I started to work in the business that on game shows, especially, but also some talk shows, if you hire an outside, this is the SAG-AFTRA code. This is how all the payment works. If you hire somebody to come in and do that audience warm up, a little comedy, a little song and dance, a little den mother, a little adult daycare to get all these people in a happy place, you pay a guy a salary. But if a member of the cast performs that function, you get away paying them this much on top of what they're already making. Right. So while a guy and I'm going to speak my mind here, a guy like Gene Wood, The Family Feud, if you can hear him in your mind, was not the greatest announcer of all time. I have his tracks cold, dry, without the music, without the.
Did he also do Concentration too? Was that his voice?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Concentrate. If you can do that, you could win 32,000 on Dark Sharks. He did a lot of Wilson shows. And not a great announcer, and I don't mind saying that because it's honest, but he had the world's greatest warm-up act. Yes. And it was unbelievable. And what he lacked in one area, he more than made up for in the other. So it behooved him. He
beat the clock too, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
The clock, yeah.
Your game show.
Yeah, I'm hearing the voice. I'm like, yeah.
It's time for The Family Feud. Introducing. Yeah, and many shows. But his ability to do the warm-up was his carte blanche to all this announce work. And when you stack it one show on top of another, it's a fine living. And that warm-up ability is what did it for him. Therefore, you can't just kind of slough that off if that's the end of the business you want to be in.
You started out on radio, didn't you, my friend?
Well, that's right. There you go. There's a
That's it.
lousy picture. Q105, your number one hit music station, 14 in a row because we have no commercials. Yeah.
Did you used to mimic any announcers? Would you sort of like when you would hear the start of Eyewitness News or this is CBS? I've always done that. I would
Yeah.
be in, rooms in the house where I would say, this is CBS or you're watching Channel 2 News at 6, whatever it may be. I would always in the car just be mimicking these phenomenal sounds, these voice of God
Yeah.
sounds that we were hearing that you don't
Yes.
hear too much of anymore. The Ernie Andersons and some of the others. Were you mimicking some of those as well? Did you
We all
enjoy their
were
sounds?
on the Love Boat,
Yeah.
and Eyewitness News at 6, the growling sound or the happy sound. Yeah, I think it's how I got rid of my New York accent in part
Yes.
by emulating the Nebraska sound,
Those.
the all-American kind of diction. And yeah, it was. I mean, if you want to do something for a living, you do it. If you want to be an artist and you really can't draw much, you pick up the crayon anyway, and you
And you
take your
go with
best.
it.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So, early on, some amazing shows too, like you mentioned, The Price is Right, and you still are involved with The Price is Right, the
yeah.
live shows and everything else, right?
Well, the most amazing thing to me is Johnny starts me in the business. He passes away in '85. I corresponded with him over the years. In 1999, 14 years after he's gone, I get a phone call. Are you the Randy West who used to correspond with Johnny Olson? I'm like, yeah. How would anybody know that? Well, we're Penny Olson, his wife's nephew. We're closing out the home. They had no kids of their own. And we found letters from you that Johnny kept. And we're looking for a home for some of the things that he felt were important to his life, mementos, things he saved over a 58-year career. And we don't really know what best to do with it. Kinescopes we sent to the Wisconsin Historical Society, et cetera. But the personal stuff, would you be interested in? I said, I'll be right over. And I got all of the materials that he had saved over the year, press clippings, old microphones, and an Emmy Award, and everything, including his CBS badge. And when I finally got a phone call in 2003, because by that time I developed a reputation and a body of work, would you like to come down and audition to replace Rod Roddy on The Price is Right? And I went down there and I wore Johnny Olson's Price is Right badge from years previously. And it's like, where did you get that? And I said, you don't understand. This was my guy.
Means
This
something.
show means more to me than anything. I'm not trying to lay it on so you hire me. I just want this week's tryout and just want you to know I'm passionate about this show. And I got to do a season of it. And there's Dear Rod, of course, with those flashy jackets. Rod would like me to tell you get a colonoscopy when the doctor tells you to, because he passed away from a vastly metastasized colon cancer that he refused to deal with. Just didn't. They're going to have to buy me lunch if they want to take a look like they up my whatever. He was very funny and glib. But when we sat, the last day he worked was for a Hollywood Squares game show week. 5 episodes, and I sat with him in the dressing room for as much as 4 hours after the shows because he was exhausted.
Yeah.
We've been friends since the 70s in radio. We met in radio. He was at WKBW in Buffalo. I was in some New York stations. And on that last day I saw him, he took his shirt off and showed me he'd been filleted. I said, like Charlie Tuna at the factory, the Star Kids factory, because he was sliced and diced. And he said, "You've got to promise me." So, in his memory and the interest of all, that's the public service announcement he would like me to
Yeah.
tell you.
Yeah.
And a dear man, and a chance to fill in for him and follow in Johnny Olson's shoes was amazing. And the first time Bob Barker, the studios are always smaller than they look on camera.
Yes.
And, they come back for commercial. Randy, I know you have another name on your list. Who's our next contestant? And he's like, I don't know, 8 feet from me. It's surreal. It's unbelievable. And for a moment there, I almost went, this isn't happening. This can't be real. I mean, it was just, Randy, who's our next player? Bob, I've got that name here. Let's introduce, whatever. But it was just crazy after watching Johnny Olson for all those years. The point, if there is one to anything I say, is that I've learned how wacky this industry is. If you follow the rags, the National Enquirer, all the gossip rags, everyone seems to be interested in who's dating who's sleeping with who got divorced from who's driving what car, who got arrested, who's whatever. All that seems to be fascinating to the world, especially the American world. I think the Brits have their own royal family that they obsess about. But that's just a guess. In this country and around the world, because we export our entertainment everywhere,
Yeah.
there's People magazine. All these. It's just, what are people reading about? It's nonsense. But there is, first of all, a lot of interest, and secondarily, there really is a reason that this business is crazier than any other.
Yeah.
And I finally have come to understand. I've been on sets for 30 years and watched people of names that some I mention in the book and tell their stories, and they're not all pretty, of people doing the most outrageous, what were you thinking things.
Mhm.
And I've got a theory on it, and I explore it in the book, and it's this, as simply as I can put it. The entertainment industry in America is a multi-trillion-dollar business, okay? Because I say, a movie may cost $100 million, and it may turn $1 billion at the box office. There have been that number on a number of films. It's a crazy number. All the television shows that we export overseas. I'm in a couple of sitcoms, and they're watching them in the Middle East. I get a little pay, 12 cents residuals. And it's like, who in the Middle East is watching, Tia and Tamara Mowry and Sister? Who the hell is watching this? It's all around the world. And now that there's 104,000 streaming channels, even in this country, everything that was ever produced has a home.
Yes.
We have this international collection of money-making assets, okay? And it's big business. So here's what I think is going on. Let's take the most creative of the big entertainment companies you can think of. And I'll throw a name out there, could be any, but I'll say Disney just because they're so well known, they're so international, and they're so creative. That's their whole bailiwick. We're this creative bunch of people. And I'm telling you, with my hand to God, if you put 10 of the biggest corporate executives from the big corner offices at Disney, and you put them in a room together and said, come up with an original idea, they would sit there all day and all night and order food, but nothing would happen. Because everything they're going to come up with is just going to be some, twist on something we've seen already.
Yeah.
The original ideas come out of left field from people who live in left field. Okay, the corporate people are not the most creative people. They're great managers, they're money people, whatever. All that's wonderful. But I'm telling you, hand to God, I've watched the executives stand there and try. Well, why don't we do this? Well, they have no idea, and they're just spinning off of things they heard before. The industry, this multi-trillion-dollar industry, relies on the thinking and creative output of people who think outside the box. You with me on that? Because if you create another sitcom, it looks like everything else. But the shows that really latch on, Seinfeld, it was canceled in 4 episodes. Things that come out of left field are the things that actually turn money. And Seinfeld, they're still, the show's been on for 20 years and it's still rerunning. And you know what? The latest deal for the rerun packages is for another $250 million. Another $250 million was just paid for the rerun rights to Seinfeld for a finite period by Warner Brothers and TBS. Big Bang Theory, $1.5 billion. $500 million for rerun rights. This isn't a new show. Okay?
That's Judge Judy just did that, selling it all to CBS, reruns of a courtroom show. Yeah.
Right. So this is a huge money business, and the people who come up with the ideas are people who think outside the box. They're not corporate people, they're creative people, and people who think outside the box in many cases live outside the box. They're on don't hate me for this, but you could say they're on the lunatic fringe in some case. The people who don't think in the predictable corporate ways. And when they get a hit, we go back to them, not me, the industry goes back to them over and over again because they've got that magic. Now, as long as they didn't touch anybody inappropriately these days, that was not the case 5-10 years ago. Things I saw were unbelievable. And as long as they don't end up absconding with money, and they partner them with producers who watch what's going on, obviously. But for the real creative ideas, they go to people who have a screw loose or two. And that's who we worship in this industry. And those are the people who get the opportunities at bat. Even if they fail once, twice, the phone calls goes right back to them. What have you got for us? Do you have a new idea? These
Right.
people come up with the ideas that make a fortune, but you know what? They leave a trail of dust behind them because
Yeah.
they're most what kind of
Yeah.
out of the norm, and they don't compute their lifestyle. There's drugs involved with a lot of these people. That shouldn't be a big surprise. These are people who are living on the edge, but we overlook all of that because they're able to bring home a hit. And
Mhm.
do it every time at bat. You only have to hit 1 out of 10 if you're bringing in $500 million.
Exactly right.
So you have an industry that is hardwired for dysfunction. That's how I like to think of it. Hardwired for dysfunction. And the people who are in it, inhabitate it, are part of it, there's a lot of whack people, and they can deliver when the red light is on or
Yeah.
be there, but the red
Right.
light goes off and
Then they
there's no
retreat
telling.
into another place
It's
and
a
time.
whole other world, and all you have to do is work on these sets and just watch what goes on. And holy geez,
What would
it
be one experience that you've had uh, on set that stood out for you that maybe is in the book to give people an example of some of the
yeah.
incredible stories in the book?
Well, take David Caruso, who was making, what the hell was it, 42,500 an episode when NYPD Blue started. And he went in and complained to Steve Bochco. Bochco says, and he's quoted in the book, that he was sullen, disruptive, unhappy, terminally unhappy, non-communicative. He was like a child, wanting more money and wanting a bigger dressing room and a bigger this and a bigger that. And he eventually got himself fired off the show because there's just so much you're willing to take. The story that blows me away of the highest order has got to be Sanford and Son, Red Fox. Red Fox started doing Sanford and Son for the same salary that Norman Lear paid for All in the Family, Carol O'Connor. It was $25,000 an episode. This was 1970s. And he figured that's great because we'll start
Yeah.
salary. There's some equity there, makes some sense. But Fox was, dysfunctional, angry, living with a lot of baggage from the days when he was poor and living homeless and trying to work comedy clubs and fights breaking out because the black clubs on the Chitlin circuit weren't exactly like playing Vegas, and he had a lot of difficulty adapting to just playing it straight and narrow. What do I mean by that? Well, he would, NBC finally told Norman Lear, you know what, we have a hit show, but if you want to end this thing, we're behind you on that. Well, what happened? Fox is running around NBC Burbank with a loaded pistol, a pearl-handled revolver.
I heard
and
that.
he's doing cocaine at the cable reads. At the same time, he was doing at Fox, Sanford and Son, across down the hall. He was in Studio 3, in 2 and 4, which is around the corner. They were doing Flip Wilson. Flip Wilson had Richard Pryor there every week because he was writing or just kind of there for moral support, appeared on the show a few times. And the three of them would just do endless lines of coke, and not a good thing, not a corporate thing to be doing. Running around with a gun, not a good thing to be doing. Demanding a dressing room that has a window to the outside world. Well, there was none available. We'll do what we can. Not good enough. He felt, and these are all quotes from NBC executives, from the Norman Lear people, that conglomerated into the story that I'm telling you now, but they're all attributed comments to the people who spoke to me. He felt that if something is funny, that's all that's important. A matter of taste never came into it. So he would, in the stop downs during commercial or resets during the taping of a sitcom, he would go up to the audience and say things like, who here washed their asshole tonight? Now that's a quote from one of the writers on the show who quotes that verbatim.
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't going to tell you that one. It's just a little on the edge, but one I was going to share with you, which I even think is funny. Okay.
In a way, because if you have an audience just sitting there all of a sudden out of left field.
Yeah. And there's families there, it's not an adults only, nightclub. It's a television taping, 14-year-olds, 16-year-olds. And the audience would gasp, according to the writer who was witnessing this.
Do you think today they would gasp, or do you think they'd laugh these many years later?
I think laugh. And the
Probably laugh.
parents would be upset that their kid
Yeah,
had to hear it, but it
right.
would get the laugh and there wouldn't be a complaint. Because a lot worse than that, I think, is in code, at least
These
on the
days.
air,
Yeah,
or on
right.
streaming, if not on broadcast.
Oh, yeah.
People can't tell the difference, frankly, between
Yeah.
broadcast standards and cable and streaming. The greatest line of all, I mean, it's a
Did
stupid line.
anybody answer that question or?
I don't know. The writer never told me. But this one is great. This one is just so great. Uh, Again, the writer quoting me what he would hear Red Fox saying to the audience in the breaks. He would say, "Hey Jay, I was with my girlfriend last night. We was in the car together and we were making out, and the windows were getting steamy and we were getting hot and wild and crazy in the car, and the windows were steaming and she was getting hotter, and oh baby, baby, baby." And she finally said to me, "Oh Red, why don't you kiss me where it smells?" The audience was, "What?"
Audience.
So I drove her to El Segundo, which is a Southern California community that where they refine oil, and there's like Secaucus, New Jersey used to be.
Right. Yeah.
There's this
Yeah.
one, "So why don't you
Industrial and
kiss me where it smells?" So I drove her to El
to
Segundo.
El Segundo or
I mean, just crazy stuff. So, I mean, there were financial concerns about his money. He brought doctor's notes that it's his eyeballs are claustrophobic if he can't see the sunshine. It's not a conducive place for him to do work. And I don't mean to be picking on him, but there's just a litany of stories about him. One more I'll give you.
well, you see all these faces. You see Lucy and you see, I mean, Joan Rivers and Carson and
They're all in
Asner,
the book.
Jay Leno.
They're all in this
All
book
in
of
there.
wild
Ellen.
stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the best Red Fox story, or the capper, if you will, at least for this conversation, is contract renewal time. He's watching Johnny Carson have Jay Leno sub-host, and Joan Rivers is sub-hosting, and David Steinberg used to sub-host. And for a while there,
Right.
there were many, 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 many people.
Davidson.
There you go. And McLean Stevenson, and on and on and on. So he went to NBC
Even
and said,
Frank Sinatra, I think, once or twice, right?
"Yes, he did. Very
Sinatra did
good.
it.
You are a child of the media. Very well done, Jim."
Yes.
So he goes to NBC and says, I want in my new contract that I get to host the Tonight Show when Johnny's not here. So they go to Johnny, who at this point had fought hard and long to own the show. He had once been an employee, and now he owned Carson Productions. You might
That's
say that.
right. Because the first years of it were erased. They were erasing the tapes, right? To the film.
Yeah.
Just
NBC owned it, and they were bulking tapes so they could say it was $300 a reel. Well, let's just tape over this,
right, right.
And when he bought the show, got the right to own the show,
Yeah.
one of the first things he did was obviously stop doing that.
Right.
And he got a $30 million payday the moment he signed to own the show, because the copies that were around, he had engineers slice and dice to Carson Comedy Classics.
Yes.
Now he owned the reruns all of a sudden by negotiating that. Oh, great. First thing we do is pull out all these tapes that exist, and we're going to slice and dice and syndicate it to local stations. There was a $30 million deal that closed like that just because he suddenly had ownerships of the tape. So Red Fox, last story, I want to guest host the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
They go to Johnny. Johnny's like, "I'm not making that a spiff on anybody's contract. I own this thing. And, nothing against him, but this is my show. I've worked hard and long for it."
He built it up. Yeah.
Yeah. So he goes, the NBC goes to Red Fox and says, "That's something we can't do. But you know what, Red? Here's what we can do. When Johnny Carson retires, whenever that day comes, we will consider you as the new permanent host of the show. We will give due consideration. We will sit and contemplate that with solid, rational, sober thought to your position in that." Great. That sounds good. So they write that into a contract for him, and that appeases things for the moment. And there came a day when Johnny Carson quit the Tonight Show, and NBC had the obligation now, contractually, to consider Red Fox as the new host of the Tonight Show. And I'm told that they got into a meeting in a conference room and addressed that situation. And it really only took about 2 minutes because Red Fox was already dead. But the lawyers insisted something go in the file with the paperwork, disclosing the day and the time that they spoke to consider him contractually as obligated to host the Tonight Show. He was gone, but he lived on because they're still talking about him after the fact.
It's incredible. Somebody mentioned, I don't know if you can slip something in quick. They said, please mention the Dick Clark story.
Oh my God. Well, it's Yeah, I'll certainly tell it to you. I worked for Dick Clark, worked for a lot of people, and the first day I worked for Dick Clark on a show called The Challengers. I don't know why people love this story. It's just, well, it's somewhat embarrassing too. So maybe that's why I don't like to tell it. But very quickly, I'm doing the audience warm up, and when the word comes from the stage manager that the host of the show is ready to meet the audience, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dick Clark. You bring him out quickly, not a lot of foreplay. You hand him the microphone. They say, "Hello, thank you so much. What a great looking audience, Randy. You think we're gonna have a good time? Oh, we're gonna have a great time. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen, Dick Clark." And you start the show. It's just like a perfunctory hello and that kind of thing, icebreaker. So I'm standing on my first day of doing this show, and I'm looking out of the corner of my eye, and there's a janitorial mop in a bucket just off the set. Now, it's not on, it wouldn't be on camera, but it's just off to the side. And I know Dick Clark is very much a stickler for professionalism and everything going properly. And I know that shouldn't be there, but it's not my job to go move things with a mop. Should I be telling somebody about this thing with a mop? What's the right thing for me to do? I don't know. It's my first day on this job.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, do I have the mop? Do I say anything? Do I not say anything? What do I do? So I get the word, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to a gentleman we've all watched on television in our entire lives. What a thrill for me to be working with him. I know it's a thrill for you to meet him. And if you're too excited, that's no problem at all. We have a mop. Ladies and gentlemen, Dick Clark. It's just something that came to mind because I was obsessing over this mop. So Dick Clark comes through the curtain and says, "Now, Randy, why would you say that?" And I'm like, well, I know I'm excited to meet you, and I know we've watched you all on television our entire lives. You're iconic, and it's a real thrill. It's quite exciting, and I know that I can't be the only one here who's excited. And I'm trying to backpedal this thing because I think he's doing shtick with me. Now, Randy, why would you say that? Well, Dick, I know this and that, and I'm waiting for him to say something that might also lead down this improv little road here, And he says, "Well, now is that the kind of attitude and the nature of entertainment you think our audience has come here to hear?" And I'm like, "I'm not really sure." And I'm like, I just kind of repeat, "Well, it's very exciting to be working with you, Dick. I don't know what to do." And the audience suddenly goes, "Ooh." There's an audible ooh. They got it before I did, that I'm being bawled out, which had never happened to me with a star of a show in front of a live audience.
Yeah.
So I was ridiculed and put in my place, and I just kind of backed off the stage, just doing that, and disappeared as quickly as I could. And the executive producer said, "Dick wants you gone." So I was ostensibly fired in front of a live audience. And that had never happened before and hasn't happened since. The story has a better ending than that. That could have been the end of it. But the executive producer said, "Listen, Dick will calm down. There's a lot of things to worry about. It's a brand new show. We got lots of issues. He's come back next week. Don't worry about it." And I came back for 6 out of the 13 weeks until he finally said, "Dick wonders why you're still here. And I can't dance around it anymore. And realize you didn't do anything that wrong. And we'll work again together. But that's as much leeway as I can able to, tap dance and distract him from. So thank you very much." So at the time, I was humiliated. I was fired in front of a live audience by Dick Clark, who at that time, it felt like he didn't put his pants on one leg at a time.
What was worse, the firing or in front of the live audience? I would imagine.
Yeah, that's a hard one to say. Would you like a stick in the eye or a fist in your nose?
You could have taken me in the back room, instead of the live audience.
Yeah, but that was Dick's way because two things. Dick had a very polished sense of the way things should be done. He'd been in the business his entire life, and this is how things should be done. Now, if you explain to somebody how you like things done, well, that's great. I'm happy to give it to you. But he just had this way he thought things should be done. And if you varied from that because you didn't know him, hadn't worked with him before, that's why people work over and over with the same people. There's an expectation that we're all on the same page.
Probably a perfectionist, and
and so I crossed the line of something that he didn't want, and I didn't know what he wanted. And the other part about Dick Clark is he's like an air traffic controller. He's multitasking, constant, one thing after another, on top of another thing. He would leave recording Dick Clark Rock and Roll to Remember, a weekly radio countdown show. I was in his offices. I worked for him before that and was around his offices after that. So it wasn't like the end of my life. But I remember him coming out of the announce booth and halfway through voice tracking a show to take a meeting with the network, and then getting on the phone with somebody else. And then the engineer coming down, "We need to finish hour 2. Yeah, I'll be right with you." I mean, it was like, another thing on top of another thing. And if you ever saw Dick Clark leave the stage, like from the $100,000 Pyramid, all those shows, he would go, "Dick Clark, so long."
Yeah.
He'd grab the mic cable. They weren't wireless mics in those days, and he would fling it so that he had the slack to be able to walk to the stage. And by the time he walked out of camera range and into the wings, the microphone was off him, and he picked up his luggage, and he was in the car, and the driver whisked him away. There was no such thing as "Dick Clark, so long. Hey, that was a good show."
Or go to lunch, or
had many other things on his mind and gone. And he was the only, Dick Clark, talking about game shows and that work ethic, was the only guy ever to this day to tape 10 episodes of a game show on the same day.
Wow.
He did Pyramid 10 on Saturday and 5 on Sunday, and then would fly back east to do whatever the hell he used to do on Mondays. 10 episodes. They paid the crew overtime because it just takes that long, but it was advantageous for him to be able to just mill these things out. And I'm telling you, hand to God, we all would stand there and go, "It's unbelievable." The show number 2 was the same energy as show number 9. You could not tell the difference. I mean, most these guys, Pat Sajak and Alex Trebek, I was always 5 a day. Some did 6. Gene Rayburn on Match Game did as much as 7 a day, because there were 5 Monday through Friday, and then there was Match Game PM.
The night show, right?
Right. So some of these guys did 7. Nobody ever did 10. Except for Dick Clark. So there's high regard and high respect for his ability, but he wasn't always the easiest to get along with, because he had his way of doing things fixed in his mind.
Carson was quiet too beforehand, and after he wouldn't chat with the guests before because he wanted to keep it fresh. And then when the show was wrapped, was pretty much done and went back to Malibu.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Rich Little said he's done it 37 times. He said, and not once in all those times when the band played during a commercial break did Johnny ever look at him. Was he ever able to feel comfortable speaking to him? Never. And then one day they just stopped booking him as a guest host. And as a guest, he came in to try to talk to Fred DeCordova. And Fred said, "Well, we just don't book any impressionists anymore." So Rich Little's telling me this. It's in his book, too. Same story he told me. What did I ever do? He walked around this planet for years thinking I thought I had a friend with Johnny. I thought I had a place to go on a periodic basis to do a guest shot and plug my appearances in Vegas or wherever. And he couldn't quite understand what happened. Fade to black, Johnny retires. And this is such a great story. Go get Rich Little's book. It's great. He's in a restaurant in Malibu, and there's Johnny Carson, who comes up to Rich's table. Now, Rich thinks he's like a persona non grata. He's not going to talk to me. I should look away, whatever. Johnny comes over and says, "Hey, Rich, how are you?" Like nothing ever happened. "Do you still do me in your act?" And Rich says, "Well, of course I do. You're an American television icon. I mean, of course." He said, Really, that people still want to hear me? "Johnny, you don't understand. You're as big as anyone ever was on television, and the whole world still remembers and loves you." He says, "Really? They still? Wow." And he said, on one hand, here was this guy he couldn't warm up to and never got a sense of friendship from. And suddenly he's all this humility. "Wow, you really still do me in your act? Wow." It was like two sides. He didn't really quite understand how to take it. Johnny was a puzzle.
Yeah.
Johnny was very, very shy.
Yeah.
And I used to see him backstage in the halls at NBC walking with a security guard. Now, there's nobody who gets onto that lot who's going to do harm to anybody.
No.
He's just there I don't even think the guy was armed. He was, a guy in his 50s walking around with a, rent-a-cop uniform on,
Right.
Just sort of there to, I assume, just discourage people from walking up to him and saying, "Hi, Johnny, nice to meet you," or whatever. It's just intimidating enough.
You mentioned Gene Rayburn too. There he is. There, you guys. He was something too, wasn't he?
Oh my God! What a wonderful, wonderful broadcaster. He was an NBC page when they first opened 30 Rock, and he would tell stories about that carpet that caressed your feet. He'd never felt anything like it. The gold on the walls, as bright as 24 karat. The black marble was polished every day. He would stand outside of Studio 8H and watch Arturo Toscanini conduct the NBC orchestra, 9,800 piece orchestra. And Toscanini could hear one error, so Gene says, from one player, and he would curse him out in Italian, and then storm out of the studio, and go down the private elevator that was his and his alone, and sulk in his room for a while while the band was there on payroll, salary, waiting for him to come back. Very temperamental. But Rayburn, what a dear, dear man. Now, I could find fault with him. He was a womanizer. He was not true to his wife. If you watch Match Game reruns on Buzzer TV, you could see him fawning over the attractive female celebrity guests, as well as got his arm around every pretty female contestant when they go up to play the super match. He's hugging them and squeezing them and all that, and it's kind of it's not appropriate these days, but at the time it was past. Yeah. So he came under criticism for that, but as a broadcaster, nobody like him ever. What a dear man.
Another one that was fantastic, I had an opportunity to know him personally, as did you, is the fabulous Regis Philbin. And wasn't he something else? He saved the network.
Yeah. I'm
only one man.
Yeah, I'm the whole network. It's all on me.
Yeah.
What a dear, dear man. What a great sense of humor. And he could do anything on television and just make it work. I mean, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and that chat in the morning they used to do with Kathy Lee, or,
it was funny when his wife Joy was on, because she would set him straight.
Yeah. What you saw is what you got. He would just shoot from the hip, and it was marvelous. You could not tune him out.
Yeah,
and he had his issues too. This is it's not a tell-all book like a giant National Enquirer. It's me trying to understand and shed some light on what makes people tick. Okay, that's really what interests me.
In an industry that you love so much, like I do. Yeah.
Yeah, and how is it that these people are the way they are? What brings that out in them? And as much as we all love Regis, his co-stars were not always happy with him. Kelly Ripa, for example, used to complain loudly that when she would try to say good morning, he would be like, save it for the air. They did that 15-minute chat, and it was all ad lib, and he wanted all that fresh, because the minute you tell me what you did last night, it will never be the same as you telling me a second time.
Right, exactly.
So save it for air. But she thought that he was unnecessarily cold and distant because he just wanted to save it for air.
Part of his the way he did it, yeah.
The way he worked, yeah.
You also worked on other iconic series and still work on a lot of fantastic things. Weakest Link, of course, right?
You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Yeah.
There she is, Ann Robinson. Well, you've done your homework here with pictures.
Yes.
Ann, I have the highest regard for her, and I'll tell you why. We were doing that show in 9/11/2001.
Yes.
Okay.
And did 9/11 happening cause the show to disappear? I heard a story that because 9/11 happened and the way the country was feeling, and Weakest Link had sort of maybe a harder edge to it. I thought it was great. And it was part of her shtick, but because of that, it sort of faltered or something. Is there any?
Not to my knowledge.
To that?
The show was a hit. It
was
spawned,
a hit. Yeah.
It spawned a syndicated afternoon version as well. So
now it's back again.
Right. And the great thing I can say about Ann Robinson is, listen to this. It was 9/11. People stopped flying, if you recall. There were 2 or 3 days where no plane took off at all. And about a week into it, she was commuting back and forth across the pond, as she would
Across
say.
the pond, yes.
And they were like, Ann, we're going to hold off for 2 weeks of taping, let things settle. We can do a rerun of an early show. She says, no, I'll certainly come. She flew when anybody in the world would have an excuse not to, and put herself, and we all felt at risk, because who the hell knew what was going on? And I'll never forget the fear of okay, we're doing a show on Thursday. Okay, we're all in on Thursday. And we never used metal detectors at NBC in those days.
No.
And we were standing, stage manager, Bones Vosberg, we're looking at each other saying, now, wait a minute. The East Coast, World Trade Towers, when they talk about LA Target, it would be Universal. It would be maybe Paramount Studios, be NBC. I mean, start naming people, places that would be iconic in a similar sense to the World Trade Towers. And holy Jesus, we could be at ground zero. And as Seinfeld would say, who are these people walking into the studio? Who are these people? They're just parading in. Who are these people? We're looking at each other going, there's no control on this at all. I mean, there's a rent-a-cop hanging around, but then nobody's being frisked or asked any questions. There's no clearance. There's no people just walking in. And I was like, geez, Louise, it took a couple of weeks till we got metal detectors. And my joke was you guys went through a metal detector, but I've spoken to some of you and you should have gone through a mental detector. That would be the kind of humor I would use, which I think is better than who watched their ass today. Yes. But it was, my point being that Anne was just a sweetheart to work with and total pro. And she was like, no, I'll fly. It's a commitment I've made. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Also had the opportunity to be a part of the Newlywed Game as well, huh? Isn't that incredible? Yeah. What another iconic series where they always had the new and improved super deluxe custom design just for you dryer and washer set.
Chuck Barris used to say, all it took me was 4 couples and a washer and dryer. And I had the idea for
super deluxe just for you.
Yeah, just for you. We got 4 people who wanted the same prize. We just matched, how many people want to, you want a trip, you want to wash or dry. How many choices are there? That's within the budget here. So we just put 4 of them together and just for you. Yeah. The idea for the game, Chuck told me, came from the creators of Howdy Doody. Nick Nicholson, and I'm forgetting the other name, it's in the book, went to ABC and handed a piece of paper that has 6 words on it. Men predict wives, wives predict husbands. ABC gave that to Chuck Barris and said, see if you can do something with this. And he mounted a presentation for the show. One of the couples to present it, and this is not a pilot, it's just like a run through for the network to see how he had evolved that statement, that mission statement. Couple number 1 was Dom DeLuise and his wife, who at the time was not a well-known comedian. He was just hanging around trying to pick up $25 to do a run through, picking up scraps as he could. But they were so funny. He and his wife, also an actress, name escaping me at the moment, were so funny that the ABC executives are laughing their asses off. And then there came a moment that Bob Eubanks, who was kind enough, by the way, with this book. I just want to point out, Bob, Wink Martindale, Mark Summers, all these guys were kind enough to give me a little blurb on the book. So talking with them was outrageous fun. And they were just so generous that I just want to thank them publicly for, reading an advanced copy of the book and adding their 2 cents to the stories. And the story that Bob told me about this presentation with Dom DeLuise is, while he's got them, Mr. and Mrs. DeLuise, laughing at the network, they go down to couple number 4. And the question is, what's a nickname you call your husband? And the expectation, of course, was, oh, sweetie, darling, honey poo, whatever. She says, numbnuts. And ABC motioned to Chuck Barris and said,
Chuck Barris,
to Chuck Barris, let's step outside. That's all they needed to see, numbnuts. Because that's great television. The wife discloses that. That was the nugget that they wanted to have.
Exactly.
And he said, that's what we want to buy the show. And I said, well, we can do a pilot. He said, no pilot. We're going on the air. Would you like to see the host? He says, I want to use the guy you use. Bob Eubanks was not to be the host of the show, but he was a disc jockey locally, and they had hired him to just facilitate this run through.
Yeah.
And no, we want him.
We want him.
Bob Eubanks at that point became the youngest game show host ever on television. He said he was 21 or 22 and scared out of his mind. And when they did the first episode onto tape, Chuck Barris came up to him and he said, it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And Bob says, what? He says, you just did a half hour of television and you didn't blink once. He was like a deer in the headlights. He was just like,
the Home Alone look.
There you go.
The audience is definitely mentioning this show. We cannot, we'd be remiss without mentioning that. Tell us about how you got involved with this series.
This show went back to the 1960s, and it's created by Al Howard, who was an ad executive on Madison Avenue, and it was the greatest concept of all time, which is to run through a supermarket and grab everything you want. I mean, that just appeals to everybody, a child, an adult. I don't have to pay; just give me everything I want. Oh my God, I got the opportunity when Johnny Gilbert was no longer doing the show. He called me and he said, "Here's a video of people running through the market, and here's an outline of what they're doing, step by step. Just see if you can narrate it like a play-by-play." And I was not great, but I guess he saw enough in what I did, trying to match what I was seeing, but not getting ahead of it, because you don't want to tell the quarterback drop the ball until that happens, obviously. So
Exactly.
it's just trying to narrate this thing without getting ahead of it or falling too far behind. And I'll tell you, it was a unique kind of a challenge. But by the time I got into doing several months of that, I did years of it. It was the best job I ever had, because it called on every ad lib skill and every faculty and facility that you had. So I could watch these things and get through a 3-minute sweep sometimes without a stop at all, which was, we would all celebrate in the studio. So it wasn't done live, because we didn't know who was going to be running where and grabbing what. So the videotaping of the three runners was done first. They would edit those to see which of the three had the most interesting thing in any given moment. So we would bounce from one to the other to the other. So I couldn't do this live. I had to wait until the video was built. Then I could narrate it. And I had, of course, an outline of what's happening next. But it was the thrill of thrills to sit there, eye to eye on the monitor, and, okay, we're off. Here comes team number one. They're going down the center aisle of the supermarket, and they're looking for those health and beauty products. Those small packages can add up real quickly. But here comes team two. They're making that wide right-hand turn into the meat aisle. What's their goal? To grab these big sides of beef. That will really beef up their score. And look, next down the aisle is the Farmer John gold-wrapped hams. Those are delicious and a good score booster. And look, the turkeys, those big butter balls. Betty is bouncing a bevy of butter balls into her basket now. And hey, here comes team three. Look, where's they're going? Way back to the giant wedges of cheese. Those imported Jarlsbergs are good for $32 a piece. They'll get their limit of 5. There's 3, 4, 5. Good shopping. Now back to couple one, and I could just do that and on and on.
You could have freelanced at Belmont Racetrack.
Horses are on the track. It's now post time.
That's it, right?
Yeah, I loved doing that. It was a challenge to not get ahead, not fall behind, keep it exciting, and have these ad libs. So the show came back from the logo that you're showing now with Leslie Jones. She had a contract to do 2 seasons of it, and they were not particularly happy with the outcome. So it is no longer. And those of us who love the show and have since the 1960s, when it started, are hoping that the Leslie Jones experiment didn't necessarily taint the future of the show, because it's such an iconic show. Every place I go, people want to talk about that.
Another one that goes back that you were affiliated with, Face the Music. That was another terrific one. I remember it used to air on Channel 9, WOR in New York, 7:30 weeknights.
Oh, boy, you're good with Ron Ely.
Ron Ely, that's right.
Yeah, former Tarzan actor. That was a crazy set, too. Give it to you real quickly. The executive producer of the show was Sandy Frank, and Sandy Frank was a super salesman. Sandy Frank earned his bones going from city to city to station, selling the programs, because, as you know all too well, a national show needs to be on in a certain number of cities to carry the freight, in order to be a hit. So if you're not on in enough cities, you have no show. So he would go city to city, like, death of a salesman, knocking on doors and putting on his dog and pony show with the flip charts and all this stuff. And this story he denied for 25 years, but it appears in it's told in a video, a documentary that says Television Syndication A to Ziv. And its story is told, and they approach him telling the story, and he doesn't deny it for the first time ever. And the story is thus: he has an appointment with a radio station in Cleveland, and the flight to Cleveland is not taking off on time. He's got an appointment. He does not want to be late. He gets on a coast-to-coast flight from going Los Angeles to New York. And hand to God, this is what people said for 25 years, and he finally stopped denying it. He didn't say, yes, that's how it happened, but he stopped denying it. When they got somewhere over Cleveland or its environs, he faked a heart attack and had the plane land, saying that his cardiologist is in Cleveland, and that's where he must be seen. And they landed this plane in Cleveland, wheeled him off in a stretcher, took him through the terminal, took him out to the curb where the ambulance was waiting. He got off the stretcher and got into a cab and said, "Thank you," and got to his appointment. That's television. That, my friend, is television inside out.
That is really amazing when you think about it.
It's a crazy business, and it's just, it never ceases to amaze.
Here's another one, Hitman, too. Of course, can't.
I was the last contestant on that.
Yes, they were mentioning that. The viewers, the Lovities are watching. They're all saying hello to you, Randy. They're loving the conversation.
Sitting through this.
And several people actually have already ordered the book that are watching right now. They've been posting that.
Well, thank you for that to each of them. And
21, another one.
That was great. Maury Povich, former newsman in Current Affair, was the host of that. And of course, it was a revival of a show that had been at the center of the game show scandals in the 1950s. So bringing it back it had to be super clean. It was an interesting show to work on. Press Your Luck.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a great show. Peter Tomarkin was the host. And this is from the revival that's shooting now for ABC. I just couldn't help but take a picture. Yeah.
And didn't Peter then have this service where he had a small plane and he was taking children who needed health care, and he would fly them to the hospital, and the plane went down. And
exactly right. He was doing
it. He was the host of that series.
Yeah, he was doing flights of mercy, getting people from San Diego to LA and flying organs that were needed for transplant, and he went down in sight of everybody at Santa Monica Pier. And,
another two. Did you ever have an opportunity to work with another incomparable one we lost too early, Bert Convy?
Bert Convy. Yeah, I never worked a show with him, but I came to know him just because he was at NBC and I was at NBC, so we'd see each other in the hallways. What a sweet guy. What a kind, unassuming, and wonderfully talented guy. He'd been on Broadway. He'd done everything. He had records. He was on Cabaret and Fiddler on the Roof on Broadway. He'd done motion pictures, a lot of episodic television. He wasn't the most adept game show host because he would sometimes give away the answers, if anyone remembers. But he was just so lovable with those dimples, and oh God, I did it again. He was just so embarrassed that it was endearing. Chuck Woolery's like that too. He would I don't really know exactly what we're supposed to do now. I don't know. It was just so self-effacing and so charming. 2 and 2. Yeah. And he was just so endearing until we worked together on he had a talk show when Johnny Carson was threatening about quitting the Tonight Show, which he did periodically to renegotiate the contract. Right.
Yeah.
Eric Lieber, name I mentioned an hour ago, said, you know what, Chuck, they were doing Love Connection together. And Eric said, I think you could do the Tonight Show. And you know what? I'm going to get you your own talk show. We'll have a live band. You'll do a monologue and you'll have guests. It'll be very much like the Tonight Show, but it'll be a daytime show. And I was hired to be the Ed McMahon on the thing. And it lasted all of the minimum, 13 weeks, 65 episodes, because he is no Johnny Carson. But it was a lovely opportunity to work with him. He was sweet and charming and delightful until you spoke politics. And then
there was a whole other thing. Dug up a few other photos here. Meredith Vieira.
Sure. Sweetheart. Lovely, lovely lady.
Really, really fantastic. Here's another.
I saw Drew 2 nights ago.
Gary. Yeah.
With him on Saturday. Was it Friday, Sunday, Saturday? I forget.
Tom Bergeron.
Yeah. Last did Dancing with the Stars, believe it or not. But they did.
Speaking of Group W, he started at a Group W station.
That's right, in Boston.
People Are Talking talk show, which was
a consummate there are actors and comedians who host television shows, but there's nothing, Jim, I know you relate to it as well, as a broadcaster, somebody who can take a situation and rise to the occasion and make it relatable and interesting to the audience. It's a unique talent.
It's a whole other Joey Reynolds, of course. We know
he was Joey, do you?
WABC 77 for the late Joey Reynolds, as he always says.
That's right. The show was on after midnight at WOR. He was
Betty White too.
NBC. Betty. Oh my God. This just never came any nicer. What you saw is what you got.
Ed Asner, another one we just lost recently too.
darling man. He would just love to curse. I mean, just for effect, he would just go on a rant, just because it was impactful and people would, he'd make an impression. But a sweetheart, a charming, charming man, lovely,
You
and
mentioned this.
More Emmys than anyone else.
Yes, that's right.
7, I think. He holds
And
the
somebody
record.
who's also dear to you, of course, I think Martindale. He and Sandy were guests on our show just a month and a half ago.
Uh-huh.
Such sweet people. Um,
Yeah.
Shuffle and of course
Boggle, Jumble, Shuffle, and Trivia.
how did Wink Martindale is just somebody. He's a quintessential game show host personality. Look and sound and delivery and enthusiasm and the teeth. I mean, the whole thing, the whole package.
Yeah, you look up game show host in the encyclopedia. There's Wink
It's
Martindale.
Wink Martindale.
It truly is. And part of it, he says, is yes, I'm kind of iconic in that sense, but it's also the name. He thinks that just his name was Winston at birth, and
That's right.
an issue with the cigarette advertising and all that stuff. So they just went with Win for a while, and then just settled on Wink because that was his childhood nickname. But there's nobody who takes command of a show the way he does. He's the iconic game show host of all time, and he gets called constantly to do like commercials for fast food restaurants and stuff.
Yes.
They're staging a game show type thing. He's the go-to man.
Lotteries and things of that nature.
Right.
I do want to slip in because this is another. We mentioned the other book, but this too, Johnny Olson, A Voice in Time, writing a book about somebody that mentored you and sort of almost gave you that little break there. Tell us about the book here too.
This is, I mentioned earlier, he passed away in 85. In 99, I got a phone call from the family asking if I wanted the materials that he had saved over the years.
Driving and then just passed out.
Well,
Something?
yeah, right. He was, I mentioned earlier, his wife didn't want to live in LA, so he would fly back and forth every other weekend to Lewiston,
Maine,
Virginia, West
Virginia. Yeah.
And getting to Lewiston, West Virginia from LA requires multiple flights. I mean, there's no nonsense.
Oh yeah, there's no nonsense.
So again, it was like death of a salesman. He'd leave the match game taping and catch a plane and catch another plane. Some weekends he would go down to do the Jackie Gleason show in Miami and then bounce up to where his wife was. And he was back and forth. Yes, Johnny, go do the shows you love. They won't last that long. Little did we know he would finish his life doing it. But he felt honor bound to go visit his wife on every opportunity. So he came back on a Sunday night to do it. The Price is Right on a Monday morning and pulled in at LAX, got his car and pulled to the side of the road, had a cerebral hemorrhage. They found him at the side of the road. He was unconscious for a week. And his wife only made 2 trips to Los Angeles after the 1940s in recent history. And one was to collect his remains. And frankly, she was so unhappy with having played backseat to his career that she never even had a memorial service out here for all of his friends and Price is Right and Match Game and his family, people that he loved out here. He just secreted him away.
I remember hearing the news of his passing, and it was very sad. But I would imagine for you, it was sort of next level in certain ways.
It really was. This is a guy I owed anything that I had achieved in the business to him. He believed in me, encouraged me. That alone would have been a great gift, but gave me the nuts and bolts, how to do what you do, why you do it. And the book came about. You asked about that. That's a labor of love, because in all the materials that were sent to me after his passing was a book he was trying to write. He had an outline for a book and he had 2 chapters written. He had sent it off to somebody he respected who had some notes on where he should go from there in the outline. So there was a spine, so to speak, an outline, a beginning of a book that I could follow his outline and assume what he might have been going for next. So all that book is me finishing something he wanted to write, apparently, because he had done all this work in outlining and writing. So it was the greatest. How else do you repay a guy for a career? Let me finish the book and give him some immortality and tell the stories that he wants told. And from what he had written in his outline, I got a lot of material, but from the stories he told me for many, from 70 to 85. So 15 years of his stories, I knew exactly what he felt was important, interesting, entertaining. And that's what the book is. It was not just me. I need to write a book. I'd never written a book before, but I felt that that was a special gift that I could give to him.
You, well, it's full circle, isn't it? He gave you an initial gift when you were almost a kid, and then you gave a gift back, which is absolutely, a beautiful thing. And that's what it's all about. I mean, this is the kind of thing where he was that inspiring to you. And what I think is, which happens, he saw something in you early on. He saw something in you that allowed him, of all the people that probably knocked on the door and were in the aisles and in the seats that hoped and dreamed to do these kinds of things, he saw something in you.
Well, it's hard for me to own that. Thank you. It's just hard for me to own that. It's just.
I know. Yeah.
He saw somebody.
I'll say it for you.
No,
it's obvious. He saw something.
To think that he found something in me is the highest compliment of all. And I'll give you one more story of the greatest thing that was ever said to me. And
this is the bonus round on
the
Jim
bonus
Masters
round
show.
I had a bell here to ring.
I should have you say it. The bonus round on the Jim Masters show live.
There you go. One time only. You get ready to spin the wheel, sound the buzzer. I was doing the Price is Right, as I say, and they hired me to do a week of shows. And I only learned what Johnny taught me, which was how to go about ingratiating yourself to an audience and bringing together people who were not necessarily friends a moment ago, but having them react as if they were family and old friends. So I did what he taught me. I didn't use his jokes because they were dated, and that was not really the purpose. The purpose was to follow the mission. So I went out at the Price is Right, went down the steps into contestants' row and into the audience. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, what he would do would be run up and down the aisle, touch people on the shoulder, because saying hello is different than touching somebody and saying hello, and handing out a dollar bill and sitting on somebody's lap and getting somebody up to dance with you. Just silliness, just craziness, just to break down inhibitions before you actually start talking. And I turn around and I see the producer of the show, Roger Dopkowitz, looking at me from his vantage point on stage because he's sizing me up. This is my audition. Okay, great. And I'm watching him, wondering how I'm doing, but I'm really in the moment with the audience. And I turn around again about 3 minutes later, and there's two people with him. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. And I turn around again a few minutes later. It's a 20-minute warm-up. So I'm like, 7 minutes into it. And there's like 9 people there watching me. And I'm like, oh, geez, I'm in trouble. I must be in real trouble because I've done something I shouldn't have done, said something in the spur of the moment. When you're on a roll, Jim, you just start talking and things start flying in your mouth. And it's great because you're in the moment, but it's not necessarily edited. So I wonder, what the hell did I say? These people are looking at me. I mean, not just watch, they're looking at me. And I'm thinking, oh, Jesus, I'm in trouble. But there's no chance to stop because the whole idea of an audience warm-up is to get them right up to the showtime. You don't stop and say, oh, that was very nice. Thank you. It's energy. It's energy. So the stage manager says, we're 30 seconds to go. And I says, I don't know how to go in 30 seconds. Maybe your bladder's better than me. Well, anyway, here we go now. I want you to fix your hair. You're going to be on camera. Merrick is going to see you now. Make adjustments, whatever needs to be adjusted. Yeah. To do that. Separate your eyebrow, lick your lips, lick your own lips, sir. And you've got these little one-liners that you fill the extra seconds with so that when the stage manager gives you the cue, you go, this is Price is Right, episode K9347, VTR date of 8/14/2003, air date TBA, and away we go. And now there's like 9 seconds left, and you give your last little quick ad lib because you want the energy to be there, not silence. So you're just throwing out funny things to say right up into the end. Oh, are you ready? Oh, I hope I call your name. I hope you don't fall. Here it comes from the Bob Barker studio. You go right into it. So it takes an hour and 15 minutes for me to figure out what were these people looking at. And I finally go up to Roger Dopkowitz, who had been the heart and soul of the show for 35 years. And I said, what were you looking at? I'm so sorry he says, no, you don't understand. We were all here watching you. And the comment that we all agreed upon is that you were channeling Johnny. Now, when I say that, I almost want to cry because there could be no higher homage, channeling Johnny, the guy who invented this job, so to speak. And it was the most respected of anybody who'd ever done announcing for game shows or audience warm up. And that moment still resonates in me as the kindest thing anyone had ever said to me. All I was doing is what he taught me, but to them, it seemed like I was channeling Johnny. And they said, Roddy did the warm-up here for 15 years. He never went off the stage down into the pit. He would address his thing up there. And to me, that's like as foreign as, that's not how it's done, according to Johnny. So what I was doing was reminiscent. Let's put it that way. I'm channeling anybody, but it was reminiscent. And that was the highest praise ever.
It's amazing, the channeling, because we do that all the time on the Jim Masters Show live entertainment lifestyle variety talk show series. That's a mouthful. Who created that? Oh, I did. George Burns always appears every show towards the latter part with his cigar and his red hanky and his tux. My aunt collected dolls, and when he hit that milestone age, she made sure she got the collectible George Burns doll, passed it down to me and the family, and he's on every evening with us. And he said he's also proud. He's up there with Johnny, and they send you their love and their best and their blessing. And he said, you've been knocking it out of the park ever since.
You're way too kind. Thank you. That's great. That's great you got that doll. That's wonderful.
Isn't that cool? George Burns. You ever have any interaction with him or?
No, I can't say I did. Yeah. No. I mean, I saw him in the hall at NBC. They were doing a show.
I would imagine, right?
NBC Follies. I forget. It was a variety show, and there he was. And,
he sends his best. He said, you knocked it out of the park tonight on the Jim Masters Show live.
You tee him up.
Tee it up. What are some of those blessings and joys, my friend, that keep you in this crazy, nutty, unpredictable, wacky, and phenomenal industry that we are in?
I love the camaraderie. When you walk onto a set, there are anywhere from, 40, 50, 70 people, depending on the nature of the show. And these are all A players. This is an all-star team. The talent pool is international. There's no shortage of people who are the best at what they do. And if you're playing in the major league, in the park at NBC, ABC, CBS, in Burbank or New York, for that matter, these are the entertainment capitals, and these are where the best of the best end up. And there's something about being on an all-star team. I can't do what the lighting guy does. He has no idea how to do what I do, et cetera, et cetera. But when it's time to play ball, we each take our little piece of the pie and we each give it our best, and it melds together. Hard to describe it any clearer than that. It may seem kind of ethereal, but you're on an all-star team. When that ball gets hit to so-and-so, he's going to catch it, and he's going to throw it to where it should be. You're going to call that runner out. I mean, these are the best of the best. It's playing with Mickey Mandel. And I can't do what all these other people do. I just have this tiny, narrow little slice of the pie. And that's all I'm expected to do.
But still a very important piece of the puzzle.
Well, every part is, and I don't know how other people do what they do. I stand there and I watch and I ask, and I still don't get it. And they seem to be equally as like, I don't know how you stand. You're doing that live into a show. I mean, there's no safety net. We work with Bob Barker. There is no retake. There's no such thing. You and I are working live. Some television is live, and working with these old timers like Barker, it's live to tape. You could, say the most outrageous thing that comes to mind, and somehow they're not going to spend money editing it. It's up to you to cover, and go back a word or two and pick up where you were and somehow try to cover your error. And working without a net, and I don't mean a net full of cello, I mean without any safety with Barker, was you're at your best. The adrenaline rush was there. And that, to me, what keeps me in it is that adrenaline of working with an all-star team.
Yes.
Best.
Right.
It's very exciting.
Yeah. The sports analogies I can relate to, because one of the key things that for the audience that's watching live or will watch this in the archives, everything always looks so smooth, flowy, perfect, effortless, easy. And that's the key and beauty to it all. That's one of the things that when you've been doing it for a while, as you have for many years and loving every second of it, I've been in it for a while, and others that we have been paying homage to tonight as well, and others that are in it still. It's to make it look so effortless and easy, but inside It's a sport. All cylinders are firing. The
Yeah.
adrenaline is high, and we are aware of every single thing that's going on around us, oftentimes called upon to get out there and save the ship from sinking, make it look like it was supposed to happen, do something, say something, get them to laugh, bring them together, because there's fires behind the curtain, or the set just fell down, or the light burst, or the co-host just fell ill, or the contestant fell off a chair. All
Yeah.
these things happen. And it's to make it look fun and easy, effortless, and everything was just supposed to happen. And that challenge that not everybody, loves doing that. Those are some of my personal favorite moments when I'm called upon to have to create something out of nothing, as you have done. You've been able to take these scenarios where sometimes they're all perfectly prepared, but then something happens and Randy's there to make it smooth out and make it fun, and as if it was effortless and easy, right?
You know it well, Jim. You've done it as long as you've been on the air, television, radio. I mean, you've had to face that kind of situation over and over again and just kind of let it play somehow. I mean, the first time a light fell from the grid, I was like, holy geez, because if that fell on somebody, it would have been, disastrous. It could have been fatal, certainly. No fun at all to watch somebody be injured. Well, thankfully, it didn't fall on anybody, but the gasp from the audience and the worry of everybody on set, you could cut that tension with a knife. And I said, well, now I don't know what to do, but I knew I had to do something. And I said, well, now we're going to find out what we always wanted to know. How many Hollywood technicians does it take to change a light bulb? And now let's see, this guy, now he's the one that's bringing out the ladder. Okay, so that's probably about $284.13. Now this guy here, he's here to watch the guy who's going to go up the ladder. He doesn't go up the ladder. He just watches the guy. And you're doing sort of like a play-by-play of as this is happening. It's a 10-minute stop down, but you got to keep it going. So I just started doing this. Now this guy here, he just walked across the stage. Did you notice he walked? Now he's walking across again. I don't think he did anything. He just walked back and forth. But hey, that's a tough union. I mean, that's got to be at least $74 each time he walks. So and on and on. You just got to make it up as you go along. Yeah, and that's those challenging moments that make it fun, and you know that better than anybody.
Anything you'd like to say about our conversation, or anything about the show, or anything that you're also excited about that's coming up you want to share as well, my friend?
This conversation with you is just great. I'm running late on so many other things because I told you that I had other issues to attend to, but I'm having so much fun talking with you. This is real. It's the art of conversation. There isn't that much of it going around anymore. And it's just a thrill to have a conversation with somebody who knows their stuff and knows the business, shares the appreciation and the love for it, which is so apparent. I've totally enjoyed this. I won't even look at the clock because I know it's been a long time. And
Randy and I were going to do about 45 minutes, 45 minutes. But what happens if you take two communicators, two broadcasters, and two New Yorkers, and you put them together? You got to put a pot of coffee on.
There you go.
At least.
This is absolute joy, Jim. They say time flies, and it certainly did, because this has been a real thrill. A pleasure to get to know you.
It's a real pleasure, and I hope we stay in touch. And I hope, whether you're visiting us back home on the East Coast or I'm out on the West Coast on a TV shoot or something, love to get together, break bread, share stories. You've been doing it. You've been plugging away for years. You've reached some really iconic levels in the industry. It doesn't come easy. None of it's easy, and to even maintain it is not easy, but you've been doing it, and you're doing it right. And
as you are as well, my friend.
I appreciate that. As my father has always said, my Irish dad from New York, whenever anybody says something nice and kind to you, Jim, ask them to please put it in writing and address it management.
I like that. I see where you get some of your sense of humor.
That's where it comes from. You are the best, my friend, truly. And congratulations again on the book.
Thank you.
It is a page turner, and there are multiple people who they've already ordered it online. They're very proactive. The Lovities here on the Jim Master Show are proactive. They're getting the books. They want them. Amazon they can go to for those.
Even better, if you get it through my website, that gives me an opportunity to inscribe, assign it to you, personalized to my dear friend, whatever you want said. I'll be happy to.
And what is the website for the audience?
TVRandyWest.com. TVRandyWest.com.
TVRandyWest.com. Perfect.
All right.
I like that. We're going to show that on the screen for you here, my friend. There it is coming up. That's great.
Thank you. Ooh, look at that. Boy, you got a whole crew there. Yeah.
I tell you, this was fantastic. And like I said, you're actually working on voiceovers and other material as we speak right after this broadcast wraps up, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it a 24/7? I mean, are you constantly going?
On when Big Brother is in production, it's not all year long. If they do 10 weeks or whatever it is at a time. I don't announce for the whole show. This is Big Brother. I do the extreme different styles of voices for the challenges.
Yes.
Attention, housemates, we're all going to go outside and we're going to do this and that. And sometimes it's a baseball thing. Holy cow, our teammates are out in the field. Another time it's, it's a record package,
Yes.
This one won an award too. I think it was like on Big Brother Records. Here are the greatest hits from so and so. Remember, she was head of household, and now she's singing this song. It's just a recap of what was going on. So there's always a left curve for that, and there are so many producers on a show like that.
Oh yeah,
it's live 24/7. If you're not watching on CBS, you could be watching it on a stream.
On the stream that they have after dark, right?
It's a very complicated production, and there are a million producers. And just when you think you got what it is they want, well, can you change this word
a little bit?
And it's always on deadline because it's a live show. The show where they actually see them on CBS is live. So
yeah,
stuff has to be prepped and prepared and ready to go. So it's an adrenaline rush. That's all. So you just got to be hanging around. You got to be ready to get to a microphone.
That's it. Linda in Florida says, thank you, Jim, for having Randy on your show. You're the best, Jim. Thank you very much. And she also thanks you. She's in St. Augustine, Florida. Thank you, Randy, for coming on Jim's show and sharing all your stories. Very informative. Ricky says, Johnny O paid it forward. In reference to you. Yes, I agree. Sherry Larson in Kansas. Thank you, Randy. Your stories are so interesting. Can't wait to read your book. Please come back and tell us more.
Okay.
Linda says, I find all of this so fascinating. I'm a huge game show fan. Love the behind the scenes info. Thank you for being with us, Linda. Kathleen did a super chat during the show. Thank you very much, Kathleen, in New York City. She's in Queens, New York. It was great hearing these stories. Thanks, Jim and Randy. Thanks for being here with us. Maureen in Arizona. What a load of fun this has been. Randy, your stories were absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing all the nitty-gritty details of the stuff that has happened behind the scenes. Fun stuff. She enjoyed it. Thank you, Maureen in Arizona. Cullen Field says, I remember first watching you on Trivial Pursuit. It's time to test your trivia IQ.
It's time to test your trivia IQ on the world's most popular trivia game, Trivial Pursuit. And the host of our show, Wink Martindale. Little Wink Martindale. I love working with Wink. You mentioned him, and I've just got to reprise on that name. What a thrill. What a great guy.
Now, when you do the wink, to be able to get that wink, are you clenching?
Wink Martindale. He always said,
because there's a lot of physicality to it.
You do that. I don't know you're aware of it as well. He always said, how'd you come up with that? Because everybody always wanted to go wink. Yeah. And I was like, well, no, it's wink is such a
punchy.
It's a punch. Yes, I go wink Martindale.
Exactly.
And that's just that's how it sounds to me.
Joan Sandos says, thank you, Randy and Jim, for a wonderful evening. Please come back again, Randy. Linda says, yes, please come back, Randy. They're already ordering your return on the Jim Master Show live, and we are going to keep the porch light on for you. You're welcome back anytime. Linda has already ordered the book. Thank you. Wow, that's fantastic. You guys, thanks for all these a true art form, Linda says. I agree 100%. I hope the show...
Wonderful group of people.
The levity is... I create it's sort of that's how the only way I wanted to do the series is with a warmth, conversational, old school talk show variety style with a modern twist of today. And then even though they're not in the room with us, they are kind of like our studio audience, which I think is
Really?
kind of cool. You love the interactivity,
Yeah.
feeding off the energy and giving it back. And for me, that's really very important. So it adds a little juice to the situation. I hope the show met whatever expectations you had, my friend, and you enjoyed
Oh,
the time with me as much as I absolutely have with you, Randy.
more than I can tell you, far exceeded any expectation, and just a joy. Find somebody that is a kindred spirit, as I feel that we are, and just enjoys, loves the business, and enjoys having old fashioned conversation. I mean,
That's what it
it's a dying
is.
art. Yeah.
Anything you'd like to say to maybe to take us out, announcing the Jim Masters show or something, my friend?
Portions of the program not affecting the outcome of the game have been edited for broadcast. The Jim Masters show is a Jim Masters production because I wouldn't do it. I don't know what that means. It's just
I wouldn't
that's
do it unless it was a Jim Masters
there
production.
you go.
What you
That's what I meant. Yeah, there you go. Portions of
is
the
it
program not affecting the
is
outcome. In
this
case of duplicate prizes, ties will be awarded. Don't think about that too much. In case of duplicate prizes, ties will be awarded. Yeah, okay.
Are you saying we're fit to be tied?
There you go.
You're
Time
the
to tie
best.
one on. Tie one on. Thank you,
You
Jim.
you are the best. Good luck with the projects, working on the scripts for Big Brother. Really love this, my friend. This was really,
Bye.
really an extra treat for me. Ricky, I love it. Linda, love all of it. Thank you
I'm
for
coming
being
back.
here. This was awesome. We'll keep showing them later on, but you are fantastic, my friend. Thanks truly for all the time. I know we went past what we thought we were going to do, but
A pleasure. All of it. Every minute of it. Really.
on my
Thank you.
end as well. Spread the word about our show. If you know other
Yeah.
folks who think would like to pop on, they're all welcome.
Mhm.
And thanks for really spending this time. I'm so glad we had this time
Thank you,
together.
man. There you go.
You
Thank
take care, my friend.
Same to you, my friend. Thank you.
Randy West, right here on the Jim Masters Show in his beautiful home studio. Look at that microphone, huh? They're commenting
That's
about that
right.
mic too. Best of luck and blessings continued for you, my friend. We'll talk
You
again
too.
soon. Take
You
care.
too. Bye-bye.
Randy West on the Jim Masters Show live. Did you guys not enjoy this? I don't even need to ask that question. The comments have been fast and furious throughout the show, and we love that. Thanks to everybody. Take a look at a few more of these. Cullen Fields says, it's so great to see Randy. He was very generous because when we chatted, we were going to go for about 40 minutes because he's working on actual voiceover scripts that he's going to be getting together tonight. He just mentioned CBS Big Brother, which is running now. So he's got to get those scripts done. So he was very generous. And what we say all the time with our series is we don't put a time clock on it. Guests can be with us for as long or as short as they can join us. And what usually does happen is we have so much fun. It's so easy and warm and conversational. We don't even think about the time, and we end up having epic conversations, not interviews. These are conversations. I think that's one step deeper. It brings everybody in together. We have these conversations that become just wonderful. They're epic. They're joyful, and they have a lot of meaning. And I enjoy presenting them to you and having all these fabulous guests come through. Kathleen in New York City says, this was great. Thanks, Jim. Thank you as well. And, Kathleen, you were very generous. We just want to thank you. We always thank those who go the extra mile, and you did. It was great hearing these stories. Thanks, Jim and Randy. Thanks for being here with us. You did the super chat earlier. That's what a super chat, super emoji, super stickers looks like. Thank you for that. Linda Johnson also did that. Thank you for this conversation, Jim. Linda, my pleasure as well. Austin Field, another wonderful show. Please subscribe for great content. Thank you very much, Austin Field. I really appreciate that. And we would love it if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That is the channel you're watching right now. It's Jim Masters TV. Doesn't cost anything to subscribe. Click that notification bell so you never miss any of the episodes. I want to let you know who's with us tomorrow. Do you remember? Of course you do. Lost in Space. What about Make Room for Daddy and the Danny Thomas Show? How about The Sound of Music? Look who's with us tomorrow. Angela Cartwright is with us, legendary actress from Lost in Space, The Sound of Music, The Danny Thomas Show, and so much more. She's going to be with us live on the Jim Masters Show live series. That's coming up tomorrow. Going to talk about all these iconic shows, her memoir that she wrote with Billy Mooney, who, of course, you know, played her brother on Lost in Space, and he was an epic actor as well. Coming up on Thursday, we have this incredible rising star. He was actually on Days of Our Lives. He was on Grey's Anatomy and this really popular Netflix series, Stranger Things. He played 10. Christian Gannier is with us. His parents are epic producers and directors in Hollywood. Christian is going to be with us on Thursday. And you heard Randy talk often and pay homage to the incredible Wink Martindale. Wink and Sandy, they were with us on the Jim Masters Show live not that long ago. And if you want to see that episode, check it out. We also had Tony Orlando with us. Lucy Arnez was here. The Pointer Sisters were here. We just had Daphne Maxwell Reid, who played Aunt Viv on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. She was with us. Melissa Manchester has come through. Marion Ross has been here. Like we say, Broadway, Hollywood, television, film, music, stage, sports, culinary arts, inspiration, food, all of it. It's life. It's really a slice of life. And you remember the talk shows, that's what they had too. They didn't always have the same kind of guest on their shows. If you look at the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, he would have the peanut lady on, and then he would have a well-known actor on. It would be the spicy, sizzle of life. And thank you very much. Jim prepares so well for these programs. I appreciate that. We like to, spice it up a little bit and add a few little surprises when we chat. And you watched, and Donnie Most was with us. Donnie Most and Anson Williams was here on the show as well. You can see all these episodes, some 750 archived on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. Kathy Garver was here. From Family Affair and many other, not just television, but everything, life. And Patrick McEnroe was here, wonderful tennis player, ESPN tennis correspondent, brother of John McEnroe. John McEnroe even popped in a little bit. Wonderful conversation. Randy's voice is definitely iconic. I can listen to him. Just read the phone book. Well, for a certain price, he might actually do that for you, Maureen. He has bills to pay too. No, he really does have a great voice, doesn't he? And I'm sure when you were hearing him speak, you were putting it together with shows and series that you've heard his voice on, right? That's usually what happens. Like, oh, now I hear the way he said that sentence. Oh, I remember when he did that kind of thing. He sounds like me too, as far as admiring and sort of mimicking some of those announcers you heard. There was one guy that was the voice of WCBS TV Channel 2 in New York City. His name was Gaylord Avery. And he was also the voice you heard on The Honeymooners. The Honeymooners with Jackie Gleason and Audrey Meadows. For years, he was the voiceover guy, the staff announcer for Channel 2 in New York. Channel 2 News with Jim Jensen and Carol Martin. That whole bit. Have a wonderful rest of your night. Jim and Lovedies, tight Lovedy hugs headed to each of you, to you as well. We appreciate that coming from Maureen in Arizona and everybody watching this. Ricky says, I love it. That was awesome. Cullen Fields says, it was great to see you, Randy. Thanks for your commentary, Cullen Fields. And I know who you are. And the Cullen, I believe, plays off. It's you're actually paying homage to Bill Cullen. I know, who was one of another of your favorite game show hosts, Bill Cullen, Tom Kennedy. Remember all of them? Mm-hmm. Remember Treasure Hunt, that series? 7:30 on Fridays on CBS. Okay, thank you for another fabulous evening. We love you and appreciate all you do for us. Thank you, Sherry Larson. Appreciate that. And Linda goes, I'd been on the fence to order probably the books, but this conversation pushed me over the edge. Thank you, Jim and Randy. Fantastic. And that's what you ordered. So you ordered the books. They are page turners. Absolutely. Randy sent me a PDF of TV Inside and Out. It's really incredible. Really, really incredible. And all true stories, too. So you got a couple of things there you should definitely pick up. TV Inside and Out, Flukes, Flakes, Feuds, and Felonies. You do not want to say that too fast on air. The backstage blunders, bloopers, and blasphemy. Don't you love that word, blasphemy? You don't hear that often. Blasphemy of celebrities in search of success. Yeah. And I think also today was a special day. You know, we mentioned the beloved Regis Philbin. And of course, Millionaire. I believe today is an iconic day as far as him having hosted Millionaire. You know, he used to fly. He was doing live with Regis and Kathy Lee, and then he'd fly to Los Angeles back and forth at that more senior age to LA to tape all those episodes and then fly back. And it got to be a little too much for him. And that's when he decided to pull away from it a little bit. But you know who else did that as well? Tom Bergeron. Tom Bergeron, I believe, lives in Greenwich, Connecticut, or at least he did with his family, and would fly to Los Angeles for Dancing with the Stars back and forth from Connecticut to LA, because he's established here. He's from New England originally, the Northeast. So he's established here in the Northeast. And, that's what you do sometimes. Randy's a class act. Now, you got a chance to put a face to the voice, too. If you never saw him, you had an opportunity to do that. And there's that fabulous microphone. And again, some of your favorite shows that we talked about. And these are just some of them. I mean, this was really scratching the surface, of course. Just a little bit here. But again, this is all television history. And of course, The Price is Right, which he's still affiliated with as well. You guys are great. Kathleen says, thank you, Jim, for another awesome show. Happy you're back. Yeah, we're back from that multi-day television project in good old Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was cool. That was my second time there. And yes, we had to sample the beer. That was not rough. The cheese, the ice cream, blueberry buttermilk ice cream with salted caramel on the side. And then we've got shoots that are coming up. Producers just told me we're headed to Reno, Nevada. We're headed to Dallas, Texas. We're headed to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and Sacramento, California in the coming weeks with one of the hats I wear in the industry. So it's all cool stuff, and we love it. Gang, thanks so much. We thank Randy West for joining us here and gracing us with his presence, his wit and wisdom, telling some cool stories, just celebrating the industry as he has. Industry he's loved ever since he was a kid in New York City. And he followed his dream, as did I. And so I can relate to what he's talking about. And he pays homage to those who paved the way. You don't always get that anymore. That's a beautiful thing to do, gang. Think about the folks who gave you opportunities. Think about the folks that inspire you. And then take that and go out there and inspire others. Because you never know who, like Randy and I, we never know who's always watching or listening or paying attention. And sometimes you go into a supermarket and somebody comes up to you. Sometimes they're a little intimidated. But they come up to you and they say, I've been meaning to say this and I love what you do, or you inspire me, or you make me laugh. That's what it's all about. That's really one of the reasons why we do the work that we do, is to connect with people and to sort of maybe make things seem a little happier than they are, more fun, more joyful, because we know the world is a crazy place. You think the industry is crazy. Go outside your front door. It's wacky out there these days. Love to all of you too. Linda Johnson checking in as well. All right, lovedies, we're going to wrap up, and we thank you very much. This is Jim Masters. Thanking you for your time this time. Till next time. Around here, we don't say goodbye. We say see you later. Ciao, cheers, shalom, slancha, hasta la vista. We say sayonara. We will be back tomorrow. Again, one more time, just a little preview there. The incomparable and legendary Angela Cartwright from Lost in Space, The Sound of Music, The Danny Thomas Show, and so much more. going to be with us. And if you want to see the episode with Wink Martindale and Sandra Martindale, you can see it in our archives here on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. We love you all. We thank you all for being here. Really a pleasure, and good night, sweet dreams, all the rest to all of you. This is Jim Masters saying thanks for being with us. Just looking, when I look over here, I'm always looking at all the comments that are still coming in. Don't forget to leave a comment on our YouTube channel underneath the episode. That helps us grow what we're doing here as well. Give this episode a thumbs up like. You'll see a big thumb icon. Make sure you hit the one that's pointed up because that's the like one. Make sure you hit that. Leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit that red button there. There is no cost when you hit that red button. So I don't know why they call it subscribe, but you hit it and you're part of the JMS Lovely family. Appreciate you all. We'll see you on the next one. Okay. Take care. Love one another. Be good to one another. And don't forget, as we always say, be good to yourself. We love you all. Thanks for being with us in this episode of the Jim Masters Show Live. Cheers.